and various other activities. And he is going to give us a speech this evening on
community building.
Community building. Brett Duncan.
Thanks, sir. I kind of wish we had take some of our money and buy a new lectern.
Yeah, get it.
Good evening, Toastmasters. I'm going to go out on a limb tonight and make the statement that what is missing in America today is a sense of community. Community is the glue that holds together people and organizations, whether it is the neighborhood or the church or any other organization that gives its constituents a sense of belonging, provides a sense of support, and helps them feel a purpose. We have heard stories from our nation's past about survival. How the Italian community in New York City or the Irish in Boston, when immigrants pooled their resources to support their cultural survival and their economic survival. There are historical accounts from the African American community which drew strength from the church for their spiritual survival. In recent times, literature has emerged detailing how the Native Americans used traditions to support their social survival. And the colonists threw their lot together in revolutionary times to ensure their political survival. What has happened to community? The answer to this question is best left to the social scientists to study, and is beyond the purview of this speech. Suffice it to say that the paradigm has changed. The very concept of community has changed. We're living in a new age. The precedents from history don't necessarily apply. According to the Washington Post, 10,000 baby boomers are retiring every day. This represents the greatest number of volunteers with discretionary income and discretionary time available. This represents a huge resource that has not been available in the history of our nation. They're not just retired, they're a broad spectrum of professional skills, and for the most part, they're healthy and have energy. I pose the question, how can we best rise to the opportunity that is now presented to us? How can we best become community builders? We will only be able to achieve success as community builders when we adopt a new paradigm. Allow me to describe that paradigm. I wish the word of the day was paradigm so I'd get credit. There are 5 parts of the paradigm: vision, synergy, resilient relationships, facilitation, and faith. Let me first speak about vision. We've all heard the rhetoric such as working across sectors, supporting local alliances that bring people in one place together across issues and constituencies, and supporting national alliances that unite groups working on common issues. In fact, the new paradigm is exactly that, building a collaborative partnerships that allows folks to do things together that are bigger than what they can do by themselves. We need to look with a broad spectrum at what we want to accomplish rather than get sidetracked by minutiae, the small issues that interfere. It is essential to identify where we want to go. This is really about a vision that the workers, the community members, the folks doing social change have for the lives that they want for their loved ones and the people connected to them. What kind of world do we want to live in? What's the kind of neighborhood we want to live in? What do we want our block to look like? Our city? Our bioregion? Our nation? What sense do we have that what we're trying to accomplish, to move towards? From there, people can realize they have a sense of common purpose, common direction, and a shared horizon. Because it's a lot easier to align people around what they want rather than what they believe. Next, in order to speak about where we are, we have to talk about synergy. The biggest challenge that we need to make in our thinking deals with identifying stakeholders that at first blush don't seem to be aligned with us. An example of synergy comes to mind that I would like to share. In 2010, the ConocoPhillips company applied for permission to build an unloading facility off Dauphin Island that would convert liquid natural gas, LNG, into a gaseous state. Tankers carrying LNG would dock and transfer their product for use in the southeastern United States. Traditionally, the conversion from liquid state to gaseous state is accomplished by burning a small amount of the product in order to heat the liquid, thereby converting it to a gaseous state. This is called closed-loop technology. ConocoPhillips proposed instead to use open-loop technology, taking in warm seawater and using it as a heat exchanger to convert the LNG from liquid into gas. In the past, the environmental community had been at odds with the commercial fishing industry over various issues of fishery policy. Environmental activists were opposed to allowing the use of open-loop technology, which it contended would be detrimental to the ecology. But they were having difficulty getting before then Governor Riley. As it turns out, at the time the fishermen had the governor's ear. We were able to arrange a 30-minute meeting with Governor Riley in the airport hangar when he visited Mobile for another purpose. The meeting was attended by 4 environmental activists and 4 representatives of commercial fishing. This opened up a new era of cooperation between 2 groups that had traditionally been adversarial. There are diverse groups that have not worked together in the past because they don't share the same beliefs. However, those groups may both want the same outcome. When we turn to developing strategy, how do we want to get to where we want to go? We address the final 3 points of our new paradigm. We must develop resilient relationships. We think about the question of resilience in relationship to the 3 essential questions of strategy. Where are we going? Where are we at? And how do we get there? Resilience is about describing the characteristics and the qualities of relationships that we are working towards. Whatever language a community uses, when you ask them the question, what do you want for your kids? What do you want for your grandkids? That's resilience. I want them to be healthy. I want them to be happy. I want them to be able to both deal with the adversity that they face and remove barriers, expand opportunity, and increase their likelihood of improving their well-being so that folks can really thrive and not just survive. We must become facilitators. Traditionally, when we are faced with problems, we try to solve those as we are best able. Under the new paradigm, we need to develop a new skill, that of being a facilitator. Other points about the new paradigm come to mind, such as coaching and mentoring. The final step of the new paradigm is stepping out on faith. Without bringing your bias or limitations so that the universe can amplify your actions. The universe gives us what we're willing to accept. If we are willing to accept mediocrity, then we will remain at the level of mediocrity. If we aren't willing to accept mediocrity, then we can come to the level of excellence. Oftentimes the solution is already there. We cannot see it unless we adopt the ability to see from a new perspective. That is the new paradigm. In closing, I hope that I've given you some insight into the opportunities that are now available to us as community builders. Working together, we will create a new paradigm and pioneer a new chapter in history. Remember, there is no limit to what we can accomplish when no one cares or gets the credit.
Thank you very much. Very good, very good. I really enjoyed that. I like the idea that we need to have vision, resiliency, and faith in order to achieve the goals that we want to do. Also like the idea that we older folks, so to speak, as we eventually get to an age where we retire, we have a fiduciary responsibility to work with our community in volunteer levels. So it's a wonderful idea. Well, we don't have a second speaker, so this evening we are going to go right into our table topics. Our table topic master, JR, is going to bring us some exciting, he's already has some exciting topics that will bring us to think and to open our imagination. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. Who are our volunteers tonight? Okay.
How many questions do you have?
I have 6 questions. So I guess I'm the speaker. That works. Perfect. All right. Let's start things off serious. What do you think will be the most serious issue the world faces in the next 50 years? Wait.
Thank you. What is the most serious issue the world faces in the next 50 years? Actually, I think it's the rise of extreme religious, like, for example, the extremists, these terrorists that are developing this belief that if you don't believe what I believe, I've got to go kill you. Okay, I think what's going on now in the Middle East and certain parts of the world, I think it's going to get worse. And unfortunately, we're in a new world, and these people that are participating in this, they're very bright, they're very good at recruiting people, they know how to use Facebook, they know how to use the internet, and they're very sophisticated. And we're going to have to keep our guard up, because in the next 5 to 10 years, these people could have a small nuclear weapon. They could bring it into a city like New York City and detonate it and kill 100,000 people. I mean, quite easily. I think that's the most serious issue that we have. And if this thing keeps going and growing the way that it has, I think it's going to be really bad. So I think nations around the world, not just the United States, but France, as you've seen, and some of these other countries, England, I think we're going to all have to get together and figure out how to fight this battle, because if we don't, at some point, it's going to wind up here. And unfortunately, we see how just in the last couple of years, the things that have been happening. These people are ruthless. And hopefully we'll maintain a strong military and strong CIA and FBI, and hopefully we'll confront this problem, because if we don't, we're in for a world hurt.
All right, on a more lighthearted note, Americans love baseball and basketball and football. There are a lot more sports out there. So Kieprich is going to become master of one of 3 sports. Would you rather become an expert in curling, tossing the caber, as in the Scottish Highland Games, or judo?
Okay.
You know what tossing the caber is?
I do not.
Okay.
I'm gonna skip that one.
So this pencil is a big log, like 100 feet tall.
Okay.
You put it on your shoulder, and the objective is to tilt it forward and make it flip over.
Okay. So it was curling, tossing the caber, or judo?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. Personally, I believe if I were to become a master of one of the 3 sports that JR mentioned, I would choose to go with the judo route. I am somewhat familiar with martial arts. I've taken Shotokan in college. I'm not as familiar with judo specifically, but one thing that I have noticed personally with taking martial arts is that it teaches discipline. And I think judo would be along those same lines as far as being disciplined, being able to maintain positions, and it also gives you the ability to strive up to extra levels. So like with Shotokan, which is a type of karate, you have the ability to test for different belts, like yellow belt, green belt. I would think you have the same opportunity with judo. I'm not sure, but I think having that as a platform, you could kind of build yourself up and evaluate yourself as you go. So I'm just not as familiar with the other two sports that he mentioned. I am familiar with curling, but not the middle one. Can you repeat that again for me?
Tossing the caber.
Tossing the caber.
It's a curling game sport.
Okay, so as far as curling, I was introduced to that in the Olympics maybe 10 years ago, along with everybody else in America that was unfamiliar with it. Basically, the little that I do understand about it is you have this spear type of ball, or it looks like a weight to me, but basically you're trying to get it into, I guess it would be similar to like a shuffleboard game on ice. So I don't have any experience with that, but I definitely would think I would have a better chance at mastering judo. Thank you.
The reason I thought of that is I went to the Highland Games in Dothan, Alabama last Saturday, and I saw tossing the caber. It's really incredible to watch. Look it up on YouTube.
Okay.
Caber is C-A-B-E-R. It's really amazing. Let's talk about responsibility. Lawrence, describe a time that you failed to be responsible.
My fellow Toastmasters, once upon a time, way back in the last century, I was young and foolish. There were many things that happened when I was young and foolish that might not have been considered as being responsible. There were probably times when I could have been much more responsible for myself and responsible for those that I was working with, or I was playing with, or any other opportunity like that. Many times we look back on the things that we've done in the past, we say, I could have done better. I should have done better. I would have done better. But the reality is, all of those mistakes that we made in our past, they all built up to create what we are today. So even though I lacked responsibility as a young and foolish teenager, hitchhiking around the country, living off whatever happened to come my way, it still built me up to be the responsible adult who eventually became the president of Hilltoppers Toastmasters. So, thank you, Mr. Topic Master.
Who was the most responsible person you ever met personally? Tammy.
Who is the most responsible person I've ever met personally? Immediately, I think of my grandfather. He was a Sunday school teacher. He was a father to 3 girls and 1 son, my father. And he also traveled selling door-to-door magazines back in the day when that was popular. I think he did the vacuum thing. He went into it was called Sure Kill, which was a roach detergent type of thing. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that, and actually went into manufacturing that. And he ran his life and his household and his marriage and basically everything that he came in contact with. One thing that comes to mind also about him being responsible, I think he was about 65 when he decided to go back to school and for some reason started working in a law firm because he just wanted to do that. And he was responsible enough with his life and career, family, spiritually, to where he was able to lead everyone and then also accomplish the same things that he wanted to do at the same time. So my papaw, grandfather, is definitely the most responsible person I've ever met.
If you could leave behind all your responsibilities, start a band, and tour the U.S., what kind of band would it be, and what instrument would you play? Lois.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. If I could start a band and travel the U.S., and I'm sorry, I think that is, what type of band would it be?
Yes, you can choose.
Okay. I happen to like gangster rap music. So it just stands to reason that if I could create a band and I could travel the U.S., my band would be a band that supports a gangster rapper. And because I happen to like poetry and I happen to like Empress, maybe I'm the rapper and I'm a part of the band. I don't know. That just is what comes to mind if I think about me and this band that's traveling the U.S. And then let me think about if I were going to rap about a particular topic. It might be something to do with inspiration or motivational speaking, because that's another passion. Not really sure how I would blend the two, gangster rap and motivational and inspirational speaking, but I believe I'm creative enough just to make something like that happen. And I travel obviously to the most apparent place for gangster rap to get off the ground, maybe back to Atlanta, which is now referred to as the East Coast Hollywood, or perhaps to Los Angeles, and start my little gangster rap band. Yes, I think that would work for me. All right, so with that, I will return or relinquish the lectern back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
All right. If you could share a beer with any two historical figures, whom would you choose and why? Maurice.
Topic master, if I were to share a beer with someone of my choice, and first off, I don't drink, but if
No duels.
Root beer.
Oh, dudes.
that's a good one.
For a cup of tea or a cup of coffee.
I'll share with a couple of my fellow Toastmasters. Since I can't think of anyone else off the top of my head. And I'm pretty sure we have a good time discussing table topics, speeches, how to be a better competent communicator and a competent leader, and just enjoying being a member of Toastmasters and enjoying our beer. And just talking about the past meetings that we've had, and the memorable speeches, and the funny speeches, and the speeches where people may have been stumped and were struggling, and all that is is educational, and we'll have that over a beer. And I know this word doesn't fit, but I have a fiduciary responsibility, my fellow Toastmaster, to continue that relationship, to get both of us to grow and continue to be better speakers and better leaders, and so on. Topic basket.
Do you want a question, Julius?
Go ahead.
All right. Good. Simple one. What is the best book you ever read?
Fellow Toastmasters, Mr. Title Master. The best book I've ever, best book I've ever read was the last book I read. The last book I read is always going to be the best book I read because every time I read a book, I get new information that continues to build on the information that I first originally picked up from the first book I read. First book that I read that really had a major impact on me was The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. And since that book, I've read books by Tony Robbins, Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra, listen to Obama's doing audio books now. So my quest for learning continues to grow, and every book that I read fuels that fire to continue to learn, continue to grow. And so my best book will always be the last book I read. I enjoy books, they're a lot of fun, entertaining, and my fiduciary responsibility is to entrust my knowledge to the people that I meet, my kids. That's my responsibility, to continue to grow my knowledge and share my knowledge with all that I come in contact with, thanks to books.
All right. Thank you, fellow Toastmasters. Those are some great answers. And with that, I'll turn the meeting back over to our Toastmaster, Warren Trumpet.
Thank you very much. Some very exciting topics. We went completely around the spectrum from what is the most important thing we have to deal with on the world to what is the most important book and everything in between. So quite interesting, Although I have to think that unity is the thing that we have to focus on in the near future. And I think that part of that is the unity between the radicals and the people who are on the other end of the spectrum and everybody in between. But speaking of being on one end and the other and everything in between, I would like to introduce our next section, which is going to be one of the more important parts of our meeting, and that's going to be evaluating how the meeting goes and preparing ourselves for better understanding of what we did well, what we can improve on. And to do that, we are going to bring Julius Armstrong, who is a long-term member of our